When priming, there's different types of brushes you can use. I'm just using this sponge type brush for this particular painting. You could use brushes that are like this kind of thickness. There's brushes that are also thicker than this you could use, but longer bristles. You want to watch sometimes what kind of brushes you're using, because they could leave bristle streaks. I'm just going to dab it in there in between. It doesn't matter how much I'm covering because this is just primer. Want to give it just a base to go on whenever I go to paint this. This is a picture that my brother gave to me to paint for him because he likes how I paint things, so I figured, yeah, what the heck. I always find these sorts of art fun to do. I'll probably go between 2 coats of this. I'll give it between 6 and 12 hours to dry before applying the next coat. If you add the coats too quickly, your second coat might end up bringing up some of the paint from the previous coat, so you want to give it a good amount of time to dry. Bring a fan in the room. I would leave this outside maybe to dry so that the paint fumes don't get to you. And whenever I finish this up, I want to make sure that I get all the crevices and that there's not a big amount of blotches onto the picture itself. So just going in. So what I decided to do, maybe I will upload these in sections, so give you guys like step-by-steps, and you could actually see better how I'm doing it instead of being a completely fast video. You go ahead and put a lot more on the brush as long as you're going to go around the areas nicely and just dab it. Just dab it in. I'm going to leave that much that's inside in there because I don't think it's going to matter. As long as I can make sure I have enough in there so that there's not a chance for it the paint to come up if I go to put on my second coat. It's always good to mix your paint well before you put it on your painting because it will help with the bubbles, but not only mixing it so you get a nice solid even prime. And what I'll do if I have too much paint on this other one like I do now, I think, because I just want a nice little even coat for this, so I'll just transfer it over to this painting. A lot of paint in these ridges I don't want. Just go back over it, smoothing it out. The better your paint's mixed, the easier it is to get it in between the crevices, and so that you don't have air bubbles that get in the paint sometimes and leave little bubbles. So if you mix it well and then let it sit for a minute before using, then you get a better chance of having a more even color. But that's your basic tips for priming. I didn't do it for a shelf that I just did. I forgot to prime it, and the gold color I used was seeping through to the previous paint that was behind it, which was white. And usually between gold and black colors usually cover well, but for some reason this color did not cover it. Didn't cover it. I don't know why sometimes I say the same thing twice and then later realize it in a video, and if I go to change it, I end up removing too much of the needed audio. I'm not sure if you can see on camera, but there's a little spot where the paint is shining through because I didn't prime it. That's why it's always good to do primer on anything you're trying to paint and then paint, because then you'll get a more even color. Yeah, I think you can see some of them spots. But this is going to be gold here, and this is going to be gold, but I ran out of gold. I only got like a little container for it. Now, because I'm going over this with acrylic paint, it will be a lot easier for me to cover this painting and have a solid color because I'm using, you know, house paint, house primer for this. So that's always something to take into consideration. But don't use flat acrylic paint to do your first layer. It's crap anymore. It's not as good as it used to be. So I'm gonna let this dry afterwards and give you guys different videos each time that I upload, so it's not just the same thing over and over. It's what it kind of seems like, because I have had so many people over the time of my channel, ask me about you know, how I do certain things, and what better way, instead of explaining it to a bunch of people through different methods, than just do it by explaining it once in a video and being done with it.